How's it going, YouTube? Value Hunter back with another video, and this time it is for the oldest coin challenge from Silver Stanger. So guys, Silver Stanger posted up a video which you can find linked up above right here, and also I will link it down below in the description. But he basically challenged those of us in the YouTube coin collecting and stacking community to post up what our oldest coin with a visible date from our country was, as well as what is the oldest coin from any country that we have. And so I decided that I would pull out a few things on top of that just to cover a couple more categories for you guys. And you can see here I got kind of boxes, which is the way that I store a lot of my coin collection, and certainly on my older stuff it's in flips like this. I'm going to pull these out just kind of on the video here, and then I will do a kind of a close-up of each one and show you what they are. But we've got my oldest coin is the 1780 Spanish colonial 4 Maravedis coin, and it has a visible date at the bottom, as you guys can see. I'm going to put that off to the side. I'm going to bring another one up that I don't see a date on. It might be there in Roman numerals, but this is the only ancient kind of coin that I have. This is a Roman silver content, 255 to 256 AD according to the images that are on it. And this is Antonius Valerianus the First. And then there's an image on the back. So I'll show you guys that one because it's actually older than the Spanish coin, but I can't verify the date. So I wanted to stay in line with Silver Stanger's request for visible date coins. And you know, this has been out there for a while now. I think he posted about a month ago or more, maybe 2 months ago, and I've had it on a list of to-dos, but you know, you get things going like trades or, you know, purchases and unboxes, and you know, you end up in the limited time. So I think this is a really cool ongoing challenge, and I'm glad that he didn't cut it off and say, hey, if you're not in, don't do it anymore, because it took me like 2 months. And Silver Wolverine posted one up, and his video kind of motivated me. So I want to show you, as far as US coinage, my country, this half-cent from 1807 is my oldest US coin, but it's actually tied with another of oldest US coin, and this is the draped bust 1707. Now I can make out the 1807. Now I can make out the 1807 on this and the image, and I'll show you guys a little closer up in a second. But I couldn't make out whether it was a 7/6 because the date's worn, but it has some indications that it might be. Two other categories that I wanted to cover. First of all, what's my oldest silver coin? Because if you notice, everything from US and even the Spanish with the visible date was copper. So my oldest silver coin from the US, I actually have an older Russian coin than this, but my oldest US silver from my country was from 1819, and it's this capped bust half that's kind of, it's a type 2 lettered edge, but it's kind of, you know, worn. The date's worn but visible. Anyway, I just think that these cap busts are super cool. I love the old half dollar. This is a silver half dollar. I think I said dollar, but it's a silver half dollar. So I'm going to pull that one out and show you. And then as far as gold coins, and this will be certainly a shout out to some of our friends that are more gold stackers than silver stackers. I think you will see that happens to be my oldest slabbed coin, and it also happens to be my oldest US gold coin. And this is a 1849 closed wreath $1. This fell into two categories for me. It's my oldest gold coin from the US, and also oldest slabbed coin. So now let's give a little zoom in and tell you guys about each one of these. I've got a lot of content here, obviously, with 6 coins that I'm going to review. So I'll just give you a once-over on each one. All right, guys, so here's a little close-up of the coins that I selected, and I'm going to start with my oldest US, which we're tied for 2, but let's take a look at it here. So this one here is a pretty poor condition, 1807, and it is I don't know if you guys can see that image in there. There you go. It's got the date at the bottom, and it's legible. You gotta let it hit the light right to really see it. But this is a draped bust half cent. And these were, just to give you guys a little bit of background on the draped bust half cent, it's the lowest face value coin that was ever struck by the United States. They are pretty scarce. They're in between different dates and years and etc. There was only proofs made and things of that nature. So you end up with the coin just kind of being tough to collect because you have holes, you have gaps in your collection, kind of a thing. So these were made from 1793 was the first year, even though they were approved in 92, and they were produced. 1857 was the last year that they were authorized. So you had a few different types. You had a braided hair, just like the large cents. You had a braided hair, a classic head, a draped bust, and then a Liberty cap with the head facing the other direction. This is the draped bust, so this would be the second one, the second type that was made, and it was produced from 1800 to 1808. This would be in 1807, so it was second to last year of the mintage. And the designer was thought to be Gilbert Stuart. Robert Scott was the engraver, and they were made out of copper with a plain edge. So there was some unique things like spiked chins and things of that nature. And on the back, it would say under the wreath, it's 1 over 200. So what you have is, instead of 1 cent, you have 1/200. Tough to kind of make that out on this one because it is in poor condition, but you can kind of see it there at the bottom. Anyway, that is my half cent. Next to that, almost more difficult to view, and I'm just going to leave it like this and see if you guys can make out the date. It's visible. I think I had it under magnification when I saw it. Was able to make it out, but this is also a draped bust large cent, and it's from 1807. Which was potentially a key date because the 6 over 7 or the 7 over 6 with the blunt 1 carried there was a rarity or a more rare coin or scarce coin for that year. So that's what that is, an example of a dated. You can kind of see it. These cents are hard, after this many years, it's tough to make out exactly what date you're dealing with. And just to kind of give you guys, very similar to the, there was a flowing hair large cent, and then after the flowing hair you had the draped bust, a Liberty cap, and then the draped bust, and so this was the third in the series, and these were produced from 1796 to 1807. So this would be a last year of that large cent, and same designer, etc. Composition with a plain edge, just a larger size. So kind of cool to have both from that year, the half and the full cent. Next up is the Spanish Maravedis. And without pulling up a lot of information online, I'm just going to tell you guys what I know about this. First of all, I believe you can make out the date there. It's 1780 at the bottom. You guys can see that, I think. This is, I have it marked as Spanish Colonial for Maravedis, and it says Hispania, and then 1870 around the rim, and then it's got the king's profile. And on the back, there was like a coat of arms type of design, I believe, and it's pretty worn down on this with a wreath around the edge. But what you've got in this particular coin is when the U.S. was originally colonized, early coinage, even as the mint was beginning and starting out, was oftentimes either precious metal coinage that was chopped up, or it was less expensive, less precious metals. Like copper coins from copper and brass coins from other countries that were common to the U.S. for commerce, and so therefore people were familiar with what they were and would accept them as currency in the U.S. So this is actually, in my opinion, could have been Mexico, but either the U.S. or Mexico. There's probably a U.S. colonial. It was that period, the 1780 kind of time frame is where that would have still been circulated in the U.S. And coming from a U.S. collector, where I purchased it, I believe that it's likely that over the years that it made its way through generations, and that's what it is. And at very least, it's an example of the kind of currency that was used in the United States before our mint was producing enough to fulfill the needs and meet the currency demand. So you had a lot of foreign coinage that was changing hands on trade, and tokens and other things of that nature that were either minted from other governments or privately minted. So that's what this is an example of. And then you have a silver coin here. It's tested silver, and it is. I believe it to be genuine, but it's very difficult if you're not an expert to tell on some of these old Roman things. Even the ones that are slabbed and graded, a lot of times, are mass-produced by somebody that's counterfeiting and pushing them out at some margin. But I got this from a reputable place, and so I did some research on it, wrote these notes down. I believe that this is the Antonius Valerianus Galenius the first, 255 to 256 AD. And I think in these letterings, got some Roman numerals to that effect, but I've been able to identify this coin and different things about the strike that make me believe that it's authentic. It is silver, so at the very least, it's cool to have some silver content in my stack that's potentially got that age if it is authentic, and I didn't pay much for it, so I'm happy to have that. Next up, guys, is my oldest US silver coin. This is the capped bust half dollar from 1819, and this is a style type 2 with a lettered edge, and you guys can see around the edge there's lettering on the coin. On the back, it's pretty worn, but it would have said 50C under here, so you can kind of make it out on the edge. It says United States of America, E pluribus unum, and it has an eagle in the middle, perched just like the others, with a shield in its kind of in front of it, and then it has the 13 stars around the edge, and then you have the date down below, and you have the capped bust Liberty. So this is a 90% silver coin. The capped bust half dollar was there was two styles of this. It was sort of rebooted in 1809, and when it was, it had a remodeled portrait and a remodeled eagle. So it was slightly different. There was some slight changes to it. This one is a bad example of this. It's very worn. I've got some better, but they're much newer. So in this age group, that's what I have. And they start to get pretty pricey when you get up into the higher grade, the higher quality. Even a coin like this with this much wear, will sell for, starting out at probably 4 times melt value or spot on the market. So a cool way to have a little silver. It's got the same silver content and weight for a worn modern silver half. But anyway, it's got the history to go with it. And who knows what president or other famous U.S. citizen may have held this in their pocket. It could have been their pocket piece at some point. Who knows? Maybe even somebody like Salvatore Metal might have had this in his pocket walking around. So it's pretty neat to have something like this in your collection. And these were, the first year only went from 1807 to 1808. And then in 1809, the redesign went all the way to 1836. And in 36, they discontinued they had one more reverse change with a reeded edge instead of the lettered edge. So for a few years they did that, and then from 36 to 39, 1836 to 1839, they actually had a reeded edge instead of a lettered edge, and they switched from 50 cents on the reverse, kind of down that area, and you can only kind of see the top of the lettering there. They switched that to say half doll. DOL period. And then the next year after that, in 39, they switched to the seated Liberty. So you guys, that's a common favorite among collectors as well. Next up, we have my oldest gold, US gold coin, and also my oldest slabbed coin. Slabbed and graded, and it didn't grade well. It's XF detail and it's cleaned, but this is a closed wreath, 1849, and because of the condition that came back from the grader, I was able to pick this up at close to the melt value of it at the time that I purchased. It's a G $1. It's PCGS genuine, so you know that you've got real gold here, and a good and collectible item. I notice people cover up these numbers all the time when they're doing their videos. You know, Health Babe and Dr. G and some of the others may not allow you to kind of see the number. I don't know why that is, and I'm just kind of curious. So if you guys are watching this and you can tell me why you protect that barcode and that, is it so that this item is not counterfeited by people looking at this? In fact, maybe I should go ahead and cover it up and start over. But this is an 1849 PCGS genuine, so we know it's genuine. It's cleaned with XF detail, and it's a closed wreath, and it's a cool one. I've got a handful of these, and I'm glad to have a couple that are graded, I know are genuine. I got this because of the grade coming back, you know, to whoever had it graded, coming back less than desirable. They got rid of it at pretty close to, you know, the melt value. So for me, it was kind of adding a little fractional gold to the stack, but it was cool to have a slabbed coin at the same time, something I know is genuine, so I felt comfortable. And it also ended up being my oldest gold coin. So these Liberty Head dollars were made from 1849. This is a first year through 54, and then they switched to what they call the Indian Princess Head. And there was the small and large in those that ran for 2 years on the Type 2, and then the Type 3 ran for about 33 years through 1889. And I have examples of those as well, but for the oldest coin challenge today, I will show you the Liberty Head from 49, the first year. And the closed wreath and open wreath just basically, this closed wreath just basically refers to how close together the wreath comes at the top of the coin. And it would be much more widely separated at the top if this was an open wreath version. But anyway, that's sort of the history on that. You know, gold has served as money and established monetary value longer than any other material. The Coinage Act of 72 established an independent monetary system with the dollar as the basic U.S. monetary unit. And we got the word dollar in the U.S. from the old thalers, which were used, the THALER. You may have seen the Maria Theresa thaler from Austria. That is a common restrike that's been struck by many countries over many years with the same date in honor of Maria Theresa. And that thaler is, you know, similar to the other thalers out there from other countries. That is where we get the word dollar for our coinage. That's it, guys. It kind of fills you in on some of kind of what I have in my stack or my collection. You know, I call it a stack because if I had to liquidate at melt value, this stuff is a store of wealth. I probably would not, you know, I wouldn't get hurt too bad considering what I paid for these items. I may be, you know, 3 or 4 times over melt on something like this that I want to add to my collection, but it is a stackable item because I'm willing to part with it. And if I needed to get, you know, melt value or something like that, probably the numismatic value would hold, and I'd be able to trade it for currency equivalent to what I paid for it or greater than what I paid for it. But it should be a pretty good store of wealth, and at the very least, limited spot price on items like this, which on this I was pretty close to in cost. Same thing here. I think this has a few dollars worth of silver, and that's about what I paid for that. And then the copper is just kind of, you know, neat examples. You know, I do collect. I throw a few dollars at something like that to have an example of, you know, something that I like or that I think is interesting when it comes to the history. And quite frankly, a lot of these coins, when I looked into buying them, I didn't know the history. I didn't know about U.S. coinage being, you know, replacing a lot of European currency that was exchanging hands for commerce at that time, you know, sort of as we gained our independence as a nation around those years. So when you look at something that's 1780, right, that's 4 years after the Declaration of Independence, you know, we're talking about something that was circulated. I didn't really know that until I looked into what is this coin and I started reading the history on it. And so for me, coin collecting and stacking, these types of things are an educational process. And I enjoy history, and so that is why this hobby is something that I enjoy, and I hope you guys do too. I hope I've shed some light on a few coins. I may have gotten some details wrong on some of this stuff. and I am human, sharing some ideas on YouTube to the best of my knowledge. I think Silver Stanger is pretty cool to post up a request for this, and I went a little overkill with 6 coins when he's asking for 2, but I think you guys, you know, get the point. I think it's a really neat challenge. And if you're out there watching this and, you know, you want to give me a comment, a thumbs up, a like, I really appreciate that. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll find out when I'm pushing content out. But at the same time, maybe, you know, if you're into collecting coins, or, you know, even if you just stack, but you've got a couple coins, no matter how old they are, post them up, post up a video. You'll see Silver Stanger's link in the description, and you guys can tag that link as well, and you know, keep the chain going. And until next time, this has been Value Hunter. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'm signing out.